Okay, I want to ask a little bit about the two-child policy. You said earlier to Rosie, you kind of more or less repeated the government view that it's about trying to change behaviour and make people on benefits think about planning for a third child in the way that people in work would have to consider that. I just wanted to ask, if it's about trying to change behaviour and make people think about family planning, how do you justify applying it retrospectively to people who've already made the decision?
Yes, Mr McCabe, I do share your concerns. And I'm considering carefully what action to take going forward. I do, as you rightly say, support the policy that people need to consider when they're having a third child, their income, as people in work do. But I do share your concerns about the retrospective element. It's not straightforward because it has already been legislated for, but I will be coming back with more details on that in due course.
You accept that conflicts a bit with the stated
I
aim
accept
of
the concerns.
And what about people who make the decision in good faith to have a third child? They're in work, they can clearly afford it, and something happens subsequently. They lose their job, they separate, they're widowed. What about someone like that? It sounds to me as if the third child is then being penalised for a twist of fate. How does that fit with the...
And we have made some adjustments in terms of carers and in terms of different family arrangements, but I will be taking a careful look at it to make sure that it is fair. I think the principle is fair, but I need to make sure that it is received as such on the ground as well.
So, I mean, is it right the committee should conclude that the stated aim of the policy is obvious, but there are clear difficulties with the application to a whole range of people, and you're looking at that?
Yeah, I mean, families are different, and you know, the mixed ages, mixed couples, mixed children out there. So we have to make sure that it works for everybody, and that there are sufficient personal engagement to make sure that everybody's families are supported. But I would also say that it is not straightforward sometimes to make these changes, given that Parliament has already legislated for them.
Yeah, but I guess when Parliament gets something wrong, people expect us to put it right. That's why you're here. The committee took evidence that this will place about 250,000 additional children into poverty by the end of the Parliament. Do you recognise that figure, and are you worried about that?
I'm very conscious that about the figures that could lead to an increase in child poverty, and I am committed to making sure that we do what we can to ensure that doesn't take place. I know that the additional money that came in from the last budget has gone some way to addressing that. I've looked at the numbers, and I'm hopeful that we can do something about it. I've seen that, as I say, some of the money that's come in, particularly on the additional payments, will help, but I will be looking carefully to see what else we can do.
Yeah, so the work allowance.
The work allowance.
Yes, that's I understand. Thank you. Can I just ask, how many families do you estimate will be hit by what's now your policy?
Which?
Well, how many families will be affected by this policy?
The two-child policy.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know.
So the figure 700,000, does that ring a bell with you? Would you accept that?
I'm afraid I don't know the answer to that. So sorry, are you saying how many families would be affected if people had two children? I don't quite understand how you are...
The current estimate is that at least 700,000 families will be affected by the policy you've introduced. Will be affected by the two-child policy.
But do you mean if they then subsequently...
But a longer work record at the department than Amber has at the moment. So what's the answer to Steve's question, please?
Well, I guess the point is it's a dynamic situation. It depends on whether people respond to the fact that they don't get the child element for the third child.
Let me ask it a different way. When you introduce a policy like this, do you do any estimate on the likely effect of it in terms of numbers, or do you just kind of wait and see what happens?
No, we do an impact assessment.
Right. So you must have a figure then.
Just sorry, I don't have a figure with me here.
No, you don't. I accept that. I'm saying, but you do have a figure. Would it be possible to send that to us? I'm just worried. 700,000 strikes me as a remarkably high figure, and if it's accurate, I'm amazed that you're not slightly more concerned about it. I'd just be
see the quality impact assessment.
Yes, that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, I just need to ask really, as a former Women and Equalities Minister, I think you might still do a bit of that in your brief. What is your personal opinion of the rape clause element, where a woman has to disclose personal sexual violence and incredibly intimate things that have happened to her to a series of strangers and potentially her own children and family?
So it's very difficult. If you're going to have a policy, though, which I support, which I think is the right policy, you've got to have some exceptions for where there is non-consensual conception in that way. And we tried to engage as constructively as possible with stakeholders to make sure that where that has taken place, there can be support for the third child in that instance. I think we've got it right, i.e. any woman can effectively self-declare, and they will be supported and the additional funds will be made available.
What if she chooses not to? Because this is a heinous crime that's affected her entire life.
Well, I hope that the work coach will engage with her in a sympathetic way to try and help.
She has to disclose that, though.
Indeed.
Also third-party groups who support people in those situations.
But
They will be able to speak for her?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, very good.
Not without explicit
No.
consent.
Well, there'd have to be explicit consent.
Yeah. But can I, before we just go to Heidi, Amber, I mean, the Conservative Party rightly emphasises the stability of families and partnerships. Now, for example, if two couples who've been split up or haven't married before, both have between them more than 2 children, they do the right thing by what the Conservative Party has always said, that families and stable partnerships are key to the nurturing of children. You have a policy which wallops them with benefit reductions. Now, I know you've said really helpfully you're looking at this area. Might you actually take that aspect of the 2-child cap away with you? Because it really undermines what I think most people associate with is a proper goal of public policy.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I mean, there are some exceptions within it for that sort of arrangement. I'm not quite sure exactly what they are at the moment.
Foster
Yeah.
Adoption.
It doesn't actually cover.
Okay. No, I will take it away.
You'll take it away. That's really good, Heidi.
And you know, of course, that your immediate deadline on the 2-child issue is February.
I'm aware.
The UC would kick in.